Okay, so to start our new game, we're going to click on New, and this is going to be a 2D game. So we'll select 2D. For the project name, we're going to select, or we're going to type, I should say, 2D Catch Game. This is a game that is taught in the Unity University tutorial program, and we're going to update it so that it's available for the 2017 version of Unity. Okay, so we're going to click Create Project and give it a second or two. Alright, here we go. And the first thing that I want to do is, well, as you can see here, this is the arrangement that I have here. I think I'm going to split this a little bit in terms of layout. Let's see what the 2x3 looks at. I like that so that I can see the scene view at the top, the game view over here. So I just selected the 2x3 layout. I like this. And let me go ahead and just create a scenes folder. So over here with the assets folder, I'm going to go ahead and click Create Folder, and we'll say Scene. And let's go ahead and select the scene folder, and I'm going to say File, Save Scene As, and we'll just simply type Main. Actually, I noticed that it's saved in the Assets folder. That's okay. I can just go ahead and take that main scene, drag it, and drop it to the scene folder. So I can just do this as well. So that way in the scene folder, here it is. The next thing to do is we need to go to the store. So let's go ahead and click on Window, Asset Store, or Control 9 or Command 9. And that'll open up the asset store, and I want to grab all of the free Unity free pack. I think it's what it's called. So let's see here. If I type in Unity free 2D, let's see what comes up. Okay, let me try this again. I think I should have typed Unity 2D Sprite Pack, and yes, it's free. And let's go down here. There it is. 2D Sprites Pack, Unity Essentials Asset Pack. So let's go ahead and click on this. And it gives you a listing of all the things that this packet includes. We're just going to go ahead and click Import. Now, you don't have to import everything. You can only import the items that you want. I'm going to import everything because only those items that I actually select are going to be used, but I just want to see what's available because maybe I'll choose one item and then change it to something else. So I'm just going to go ahead and say All and Import. Give it a couple seconds and it will import all of the items within the 2D Sprite Pack. And in fact, if I go over here to Sprites, you'll see all the various items that are available to use. I like this guy over here. Look at this bomb sprite. Looks like it's a lit bomb, and here's a bomb that is not lit, and I guess this is kind of like, looks like a bowling ball, right? And here's some other items that we can use if you want. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. That's what we're going to be using. So go ahead and go to the asset store, download that, and we're going to go back to our scene. Okay, before I continue with adding items from my sprites folder into the hierarchy, let me go ahead and create, well actually I guess what I could do is I could drag and drop, say for example, the sky. So let's see if we could find the sky. And there it says sky sprite, that's fine. Let me go ahead and just add that over here. And what I want to do is I want to create two layers. I want to create a background layer and a foreground layer. So you'll notice over here where it says sorting layer, it says default. I want to create two layers. So we'll say add sorting layer, and I'm going to click the plus symbol. And the first layer is going to be the background layer. And then I'll click the plus symbol one more time, and we'll type in foreground. And then I can reselect the sky sprite, say for example, and when I select the sorting layer rather, I can select whatever one of the layers that I have already created. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the background layer. Now, one thing I want you to notice in the scene view, as I roll back on my mouse, I don't have a wheel on my mouse, I had the Apple Magic mouse, but if you have a wheel, you just simply scroll down. I'm just simply lifting, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say lifting, moving my finger up and down on the mouse. Or you could also use the trackpad as well to zoom out. And so I'm currently looking at the scene, and you see that the sky sprite that I currently imported, it's way bigger than what the camera actually consumes, which is fine. If I wanted to, I could just simply select the sky sprite, and then I could change it. I could change the scale by dragging and dropping these handles to make it so it's a little bit smaller. Now, here's what Unity recommends that you do. Instead of doing this, they recommend that you take the original sprite that you dragged and dropped into the hierarchy, and that you change the pixels per unit. So this is the number of pixels, which you could think of as dots. These are the number of pixels per Unity unit. So if I were to increase that from 100 to 200, I want you to see the effect. So I'm going to type 200, I'm going to click apply, and I want you to have your eyes over here. When I click apply, notice the effect in just a second. So basically you have a tighter resolution, you can think of this as, right? So you have 200 pixels per unit. This is going to be a little bit of a tighter image. But the idea is that we're making the actual sky sprite fit a little bit better within the camera. Again, if you wanted to resize this, you could. Unity is recommending this in terms of like CPU savings. I don't really know. Maybe the CPU savings are negligible, but nonetheless, just trying to abide by what they're saying. Okay, so that works for any of these items that you drag and drop from the sprites folder into the hierarchy. If you wanted to change their scale, you might want to consider first changing the pixels per unit first to see what that looks like. And in this case, we're looking pretty good. Okay, so let me scroll down. What I want to do is I want to look for ground. It looks like I may have to scroll up. Okay, here we go. This looks good. I want to take this grass sprite and I'm going to drag that into here. And I can't see the grass sprite because this has a different layer. Remember that the sky sprite has the background layer. So this grass sprite, it doesn't have anything in terms of the sorting layer. So let's see what happens if I select foreground. Alright, so I selected foreground. That looks better. That's, now in front, so we can take this and we can manipulate it. Okay, before I position and duplicate the sprite so that there's one on the left and one on the right, I think I want to insert the hat sprite because that's going to be the device that actually catches the items that are falling from the sky. So I'll just simply take the hat sprite, drag and drop this over here into create, and of course I can't see anything. And so that's because of the sorting layer issue. So I'll just simply make it so that it also is foreground. And let's see here, if I go over here to click this button over here so that I can move this item, you'll see that it's behind the grass. And so I want this to be in front of the grass sprite. So what we'll do is we can change the order in layer. So currently the sprite is set to 0. That's fine. The hat sprite, let's see what happens if I change that to 1. So if I change that to 1, now you can see that this is in front. The bigger the number, the more in front of the item is going to be. Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm looking at the scene view and the game view simultaneously, and let's say that I want the hat to be, maybe somewhere around here, say, for example. And so if that's the case, then I'm going to have to move the grass sprite down. So I'll move that down because I want the hat to be moving on the actual grass sprite. I think I want it a little bit lower because the items are going to be falling from the sky, so I want as much time or as much space, I should say, to be able to make a decision. Because when I move my mouse pointer back and forth, of course, the hat is going to be following the mouse pointer. Okay, so let's see here. Let me take this grass sprite, move it down a little bit further. I do want to see a little bit of dirt here. Yeah, that's fine. And then I'll just take the hat sprite and then move that down on the grass. Yep, something like that looks good. Okay, so now let's take this grass sprite, and what I want to do is to duplicate it. So I'll simply select duplicate, or I could use the shortcut key as well. Now I could do this. I could take this and move it like this. That's fine. Another thing that you can do is if you hold down the V key and then, let's see here, first of all, let me select this. And then if I hold down, let me scroll out here. Select this guy here. Here we go. So if I hold on the V key, you'll see here that I'm using this vertex snapping. And so I'm just simply going to snap it right here. That looks good. Let's take this guy over here, duplicate it. All right, and then I'm going to hold down the V key once again, and let's see, click this guy. Yeah, there we go. And whoops, having some trouble here. There it is. Holding down the V key, that's the vertex snapping that I want, and then just snap that over here. And you can see what it looks like over here in the game view. Looks like there's grass that continues all the way through it. So that's what we want. Another thing I'm going to do is to take the sky sprite. I'm going to select that. I want to drag that up a little bit. I'm dragging it here in the scene view, but I'm going to look over here in the game view. And I want the clouds to be a little bit closer to the top. Something like that looks fine. I don't want these grass sprites separately, so I think, or separated. So I think what I'll do is I'll click Create, Create Empty, and then over here, we'll just type in ground. Or I could have typed in ground over here as well. And then I'll drag each of the grass sprites into ground. Just like that, so that we can keep everything nice and neat. Okay, the next thing to do is to get ready to apply some script to the hat sprite, because inevitably what we want to do is we want to move our mouse pointer to the left and to the right, and so that's going to have an effect on the hat moving to the left and to the right. We want to make sure that it only goes to this end of the screen all the way to this end of the screen and not beyond the screen like this, so that the hat is covered. Alright, so in order to do that, the first thing that I'm going to do is to select the hat sprite, and let's go ahead and add a component, and we're going to add a physics 2D component, specifically the rigid body 2D. Now, currently it's set the dynamic, which means it is going to respond to physics forces. Well, we don't want that, so we want it to respond to our code that we're going to be typing. So we're going to select kinematic for the body types that it will reply to the code, or it will respond, I should say, to the code. Alright, well, first of all, let's create a folder, and that folder is going to be called scripts. And where is that folder? I don't know where I put that folder. Let's see here. Oh, I see where I put it. I had sprites selected, so that's why. So let me just click over here and type in scripts. Enter. I want to drag that out so that it's part of the assets folder. So I'll just drag it and put it on top of assets. There we go. All right, now I'm going to select the hat sprite once again, and I'm going to say add component. Go down here, new script, and let's see, what should we call this thing here? I guess. Okay, we're going to call this thing hat controller. So we'll say hat controller. Create and add. And there it is. And now let's go ahead and edit the script. Alright, so on my screen, I'm on a Macintosh, so I like this setup where I can change displays. I think it's called pages, where I can move to the left or to the right, whatever you want to do on the PC or on the Mac, that's fine. But we're going to be switching over here now to MonoDevelop so we can type the code. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is to create a public reference to our camera, and we're going to call that cam. And the idea is we're going to get the camera so that we know the extents to which we can move our hat to the left and to the right. And so the way that we'll do that is over here in the start function, we'll say if the cam is assigned to null, if it does not have an assignment, then we are going to give it an assignment as follows. Cam is simply going to be the main camera. So we'll select camera.main. So in other words, this camera is the main camera, and so I'm going to establish a reference to that, which we're going to call in our script cam. Okay, another reference that we're going to have to create is a rigid body 2D reference. So over here, we'll just simply say private rigid body 2D. We're going to call that RB2D. And the rigid body, of course, is going to be a reference to the hat, because that's the code that we are developing is for the hat sprite. So I need to have a reference to that. So, and of course, this has a rigid body 2D. This is really what I need a reference to. So what we'll do is, I guess I could just go ahead and do this in Start. Press Enter, and we'll say RB2D. Get component. There it is. And with the angled bracket, and then we'll just say rigid body 2D. Open and close parentheses. And right there. So this will get the hat rigid body 2D, and that's going to be placed right there into RB2D. All right. Instead of update, we are going to use fixed update. So make sure that you are capitalizing the letter F, capital U for update. And you know that update is called once per frame. Well, in terms of the fixed update, this is called once per physics. Sorry. Time step. A little bit different in terms of a physics update. And the reason why we want to do a fixed update is because we are dealing with the hat that we're going to be moving to the left and to the right in terms of the rigid body 2D. Physics is going to be applied to this eventually when we have a ball that's going to fall and bounce on this hat. It could bounce to the left, could bounce to the right. So we need to take into consideration all those items. So that's why we use fixed update. All right. Well, as I am moving my mouse pointer to the left and to the right, I'm going to want to know what the position of that mouse pointer is in terms of the world that we are in. And so remember, right now this is looking at it from a 2D perspective, but really we're generating this, this 3D game here, as you can see here. And so where is my mouse relative to the world? So we are going to get that by typing vector 3. We'll say raw position, and that is going to be based on the camera. We're going to say screen to world point, and in terms of your input, that is going to be based on your mouse position. All right, now this raw position is the location of the mouse pointer in 3D space, but I'm only interested in the mouse position in terms of the x-axis, moving to the left and moving to the right. I really don't care in terms of the y and the z-axis. So what I'll do is I'll create another vector 3 object, and we're going to call this target position. This will be a new vector 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the raw position that I just obtained, but only the x-axis component. That's the only thing that I'm interested in. In terms of the z-axis, I'm not interested in those, so we'll just simply say 0.0f for both the y and the z-axis. So now the target position really is what I'm interested in, because that's tracking the motion of my mouse pointer to the left and to the right. So what I'll do is I'll take that rigid body 2D that I have a reference to, so RB2D, and we'll say move position is going to be based on the target position. So in other words, wherever that target position is located, that's how we are going to move our rigid body 2D. So we use the rigid body 2D.move position in other words to say we want an association with the mouse moving to the left and to the right. So let me go ahead and save my code. I'm going to transfer back over here to Unity, and let's run the game. Okay, and so notice what happens. This is cool. So it's moving to the left and to the right. I got to fix a couple of things. Namely, you'll notice that if I move this thing off screen, that the hat is moving off screen as well. So we want to fix that. Also, you'll notice that our hat is a little bit above the ground here. So we're going to have to fix that as well. Okay, well, in terms of taking care of the hat being raised up a little bit in the y-axis. So let's see, first of all, you'll notice that at the very beginning of the creation of me adding these various items, I think I lowered the hat position. In fact, I know I did. In my case, it looks like it's at negative 2.98, and the reason why I did that is because I wanted the hat to look like it was riding on the surface of this grass, and as I move the mouse pointer to the left and to the right, it's going to move on top of this grass, or simulate moving on this grass. So first of all, because I moved the hat, I have to take that into consideration. Now, your value may not be minus 2.98. I'm going to copy this. You're going to copy whatever your value is. We're going to go back over here, and then for the y-axis, instead of the 0.0, you're going to replace it with whatever your value is in terms of the y-axis. So once you change that, go ahead and select Save to reflect the change that you've made. And then we'll go back over here. Let's go ahead and run the game. All right, and now notice that it is exactly at negative 2.8, and the x-axis is changing as I move the mouse pointer to the left and to the right. So let me get out of game mode. Okay, so as we mentioned before, the thing that needs to be corrected is that the mouse pointer goes off the screen, and so does the hat. We don't want that. We want the hat to go from this right position to this left position on the x-axis. All right, so we're going to have to incorporate some code to be able to do that. But before I do that, let me drag in this one screen here, or this one web page from Unity's documentation, when it talks about this deal about screen to world point. See, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to determine, let me go back over here, we're going to have to determine where this is, where this maximal point here that we want it to go in terms of going to the right and going to the left. Well, one of the things that I'm going to show you is that back down over here in the bottom left-hand corner, we call this the 0, point. And then over here, that's going to be the maximal x and the maximal y point over here. And in order to do that, we're going to have to go from what's 2D space, which is what we call over here, and say, okay, so where is this point located in terms of its x and its y axis? And if I want to go to 3D space, like, as I'm simulating over here, where is that particular point in 3D space? Well, that's what this whole thing is about over here in terms of screen to world point. Screen you can think of as if it were 2D space. World you can think of, okay, we're going into 3D space. So as you can see over here, it says transform position from screen space into world space. The screen space is defined in pixels. The bottom left of your screen is 0, 0. So that's what I was talking to you before. If you were in a game mode, this would be the 0, 0 point. The right top hand corner is the pixel width and the pixel height, the number of pixels in terms of its width, the number of pixels in terms of its height. So, I mean, this screen is not 1024 by 768, but it would be as if I'm going from 0, 0 all the way to 1024 by 768 on the upper right hand corner. The Z position is in world units from the camera. So the idea is that the screen is, you can think of that as a 2D representation. The world point would be a 3D representation of a particular point. And then here's some sample code. We're going to take some of this and implement it on our program. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here to the top of my code, and I'm going to create a public variable. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to create a private variable. So let me just go down here so I can keep all the private variables together. So we're going to create a private variable. It's going to be of type float, and we'll call this max width, which is going to be the maximum width of the screen. So what we'll do is over here in the start function, just below our if statement, let's go ahead and create a vector 3. and we'll call this the upper corner. Now you know what I'm talking about, and that I just mentioned that the lower right hand or lower left hand corner is the 0, 0, and I want this because that's going to give me the width, right? If I get this point over here, I know that from this location all the way to this location, that's going to end up giving me the width. So I'll just simply call that the upper corner. Now this is going to be a vector 3, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the screens dot width property, we're going to take the screens dot height property, and then we'll just simply say 0, 0, f because we're not interested in the 0, 0 location for our 2D game. Okay, well, once I've established this, then I'm going to create another vector 3. We're going to call this thing target width. And for the target width, what we're going to do is we're going to take our camera that we have a reference to our game camera, and we call that here in our program cam, dot, and we're going to use that screen to world point that we were just taking a look at before, and we're going to give it the upper corner. Next, we'll say max width is going to be target width dot x. Okay, so we're only doing this at the beginning of the program one time. I'm going to get that upper corner from my 2D perspective. Even though I'm creating a 3D, the reason why I need to do that is because target width is going to be cam to screen to world point, and so I want to find out what that width is from, this is what it is in the 2D perspective, this is what it is from a 3D perspective. Now that I've got that from, what the camera can actually see from left to right, I just want the x-axis. I just want the target width, because remember, target width is a vector 3, so that means that this is a point in 3D space. Just give me the x-axis width, and I'm going to call that max width. Well, once I have that, then I'm going to make some adjustments over here. So first of all, let me go over here, press enter a couple times. Actually, just press enter one time. I'm going to create a float. We're going to call this target width. Now, target width, we're going to have to clamp what the target width is, because recall that when I move this hat to the left and to the right, I do not want it to go beyond this boundary. That's the whole point of me trying to find out what the width of the screen is. And I don't know what the width of the screen is until the user's playing the game on an iPhone, on a computer screen, on an Android device. I don't know, so I need to find that out. And so that's what this whole business is about, determining what the width of the screen is. Well, now that I've got that, I'm going to create this target width, and I'm going to use mathf.clamp. And we've used clamp before in other projects, and what this does is it clamps the value between some minimum and some maximum value. So first of all, I have to tell you, well, what is the value that you're trying to clamp? What is the minimum value that's acceptable? What is the maximum value that's acceptable? So over here, we'll say math.clamp, we'll say target position dot x. That is going to be the value that we're trying to change. Now, what is the allowable minimum value? Well, that's going to go from minus max width all the way to positive max width. And the reason why I'm doing that is because in the middle, I think we have established this guy to be at the 0, 0 location, right? So this hat sprite, that's going to be at the 0 location. So that means if let me just go ahead and select this. See over here it says position x0. So if I move this to the left, notice that I have negative values. If I move this to the right, again, notice that I have positive values, right? So the idea is, let me undo. The idea is that we're going to give it some minimum and some maximum value, and that's what the whole maximum width was supposed to, we were supposed to calculate that in the start function. Once I have that, then I know how far to the left and how far to the right I can go. So once I've done this, we'll say that my new updated target position, right? Because we've already created target position with some initial values. But now that I've established how far to the left and how far to the right I can go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassign this and say that this is going to be a new vector 3, and we're going to take the target width, and in terms of the y-axis, we'll just simply take the target position dot y no change there. And take the target position dot z. So really, it's this thing that I'm updating target position, because the old target position y, the old target position z, which was established over here, everything's going to stay the same there. It's the target width the position, the target width a value rather that I'm updating, because that is going to be a value from this left hand max width, negative max width value all the way to the right hand max width value. Okay. And then, let's see here, this line, which is the rigid body 2D in terms of the move position, that's going to stay the same because target position is just being updated. Okay, so let me save my code. Save. Let's go back over here, run the game, and see what happens. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so now notice, okay, so my mouse pointer is moving to the right, and it looks like half of the hat is removed, half is on screen. And same thing over here, half of the hat is seen, half of the hat is not seen. So that's an improvement. Before I was moving my mouse pointer over here and the hat would move with me, and you can see over here from the scene view, that's not the case. It's going to stop right over here. So what we need to do is we need to make some adjustments to say, okay, let's take half of that hat width, subtract it so that it only goes over here, and same thing over here, we're going to add, I guess, some of that hat width over here so that it only stops right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to affect the code or the script for the hat sprite. So let me move over here, and the first thing that I'm going to need to do is to create a get component for the render of the hat. So the renderer knows the dimensions of the hat, and then we can use that to our advantage. So first of all, we'll do this. Let me go back over here. And we'll say private and render, and let's go ahead and create a name for the renderer. So we'll just say hat renderer, something like that. Okay, and then we're going to have to get that reference, and so we'll say hat renderer, get component, and then within the angled brackets, we'll type in render. Okay, so now that I have a reference to the hat's renderer, I can make some additional adjustments. So let's go down here and let's type in float hat width. Oops, sorry, hat width. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hat renderer, which I just grabbed, created a reference to, dot bounds dot extents dot x axis, x component of the vector. Okay, so what we're doing is we're basically saying what is the extent of the hat renderer, and the hat renderer is basically going to be drawing this hat. So in essence, what we're doing is we're getting the width of the hat. And I'm going to be putting that into hat width. Now let's go over here to our max width, and we'll modify this line so that it says target width x minus the hat width. So that way we won't just show half of the hat, we are going to show the entire hat within the screen bounds. Okay, let's go ahead and save our work. And let's go back over here to Unity. Let's go into run mode. Uh-oh, I've got some errors in my code here. Let me go back over here and see if I can find out what's going on. So I'll say build all. And it says over here, cannot convert method group get component to a non-delegate type. Unity engine renderer. Consider using parentheses to... Oh. In other words, I forgot to put the parens. Alright, let me just build all. And looks like we're successful. Okay. By the way, I see that we're successful up here. Alright, so now let me go back over here and let's run this thing and see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to move the mouse over here. Okay, nice. So, I mean, it looks like I can go over a little bit more over here. So you can see here that I'm moving my mouse cursor over here, my mouse pointer, and I'm moving my mouse pointer over here. So that's good that it's within the bounds, but Looks like we clipped off a little bit too much. I needed to move over just a little bit more, but still, I like what we're doing. We're making progress. So let's get out of this game mode and let's go back over here into our code area. So the adjustment that I'm going to make to the hat width is I'm going to take whatever that is, divide that by 2. Let me save my work. And now let's go back over here and see what difference that makes. Okay, and perfect. That's what it was. Yeah, so just trying to figure out how to make it so that the hat goes right there to the edge and to the edge, and so it looks like it was just a little mathematical adjustment. Taking the hat width minus 2, we're going to subtract that from the total target width and the x-axis, and that will serve as our max width. So that's cool. Now we have our hat following our mouse pointer. So what's going to happen is we're going to have an object fall from the sky, and we're going to be moving our mouse quickly to try to catch that, and then we're going to keep score to make sure that we track how many of those items that we're able to catch. Okay, so at this point, let's go to the sprites folder, and I think there should be a bowling ball here. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to take this, I'm going to move this into the hierarchy. There it is. Now, we can't see it because of the layering issue, so what I'll do is I'll say sorting layer, and we'll move this to foreground. And let me zoom in a little bit because I think this thing is a little too small, as you can see here. And also it's going behind the hat, so let's see here. What happens if I make this layer order 1? Is it going to be in front of the hat? Not quite yet, so that means we'll have to go to layer order 2. Probably the hat is at layer order 1. I could have just selected it to find out, but yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's going to go in front of the hat, but check this out. That's not supposed to happen, right? So we're going to have to modify the hat, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a graphics software, how to modify this. And I'll just give you a modification of this hat. We're going to have to make it so that this front part of the hat is gone, and that way the ball looks like it's going into the hat. But first of all, let's take care of this problem of the actual hat size. So if I go over here to the bowling ball, you'll notice that pixels per unit is 100. Now, could I go over here and scale this? Yes, I could. Unity suggests that you just simply change the pixels per unit for the original sprite that you imported. So let's see what happens if I change this to 200. So I'll type in 200, and then I'm going to click Apply. Oh, that's the wrong direction. It looks like it's getting smaller. So let me try 50 then, because this was 100, and then click Apply. Okay, that looks better. So you can see here that it looks like the ball will go in, and it looks like it's going to fit inside of the hat. So we'll keep that at 50. If you wanted to make some additional adjustments, that's fine. You could make this 75. Where's the bowling ball? Here it is. If you wanted to make that a little bit bigger, in fact, let me just make it like 65. Let's see what happens here. So I'll click Apply. That's too small. I think I'm just going to stick with 50. I'm fine with that. It looks like it's definitely going to fit in there because when I create my colliders, I'm going to make sure that I go right to this edge and then also to this edge over here. So that way the ball will just boop, pop right in. And if it happens to be that the ball hits this part, then it's going to bounce over into here, say for example, and then bounce right back in. Okay. All right, so this was input at 0, 0. Yeah, so that's, I mean, I don't have to do this. I'm just trying to show you that when the ball drops in, and if I move the hat appropriately, it should fall in just like that. All right, we want the ball to respond to physics forces. That is, we want gravity to pull down on this. So with the bowling ball selected, let's go ahead and add component, physics 2D, and we're going to say rigid body 2D. It's already set up for dynamic, which is perfect. We want this thing to fall down. So in fact, let me just go ahead and start the game. Let's see what happens here. Yep, the ball falls down. That's great. And we're going to have it so that the ball falls down from off screen. So we'll have something like this. Move it up like that so that eventually when I play the game, I'll be able to move the hat right into the position like the hat's over here. I'll move it into position so that I can catch the ball. Now, of course, you see that the ball is just going to keep on falling through. So we need to add some additional components. So let's go ahead and select that bowling ball again, add component, physics 2D, and we're going to want a circle collider around the ball. So let's select Circle Collider. By the way, let me just bring that down here. Bring that down here so we can see what's going on. Alright, so the Circle Collider is a little bit too big. So we're going to have to make an adjustment for that. So let's see here. Let's go to Circle Collider. And I have a radius value. So if I just simply change that radius value like this, and let me zoom in a little bit more. Let me turn off the sky because it's kind of hard to see. Background here. Select the ball again. There's the Circle Collider. And so once again, I'm just going to simply hold down my left mouse button and then change the Circle Collider and try to get it as much as possible. I think that looks pretty good right here. Looks like we're getting the outer edge of the ball. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so let me turn the sky back on. And let's see what happens now when I play the game. Okay, so again, it falls all the way through. And so we're going to have to make some additional like edge colliders and collider with the hat to make sure that the ball doesn't fall through when it goes into the hat. The hat is able to catch it. So let me stop here. Okay, now when the bowling ball does strike the hat, especially if it strikes the edge and then kind of like rolls in, I want to provide a little bit of friction, actually a lot of friction, for the bowling ball. So the first thing that I'll do is, let me select Assets, and let me go ahead and create a new folder. And let's see here, we'll say Physics Material. Let me select this folder, and then we're going to create a Physics Material 2D. Now the Physics Material 2D, I think I'll just call it Mat 2D, and then this is going to apply to the bowling ball. And notice the friction by default is 0.4. I'm going to change that to 5. Press enter. So that there's a lot of friction when the ball hits. There's not going to be any type of bouncing. It's just going to boom. Well, maybe I shouldn't say bouncing per se, but that when it makes contact, there's a lot of friction. Okay, you don't have to have this. This is just something that we're adding to the ball. You don't have to have any friction. It's up to you. Okay, so let me go back over here to the bowling ball, and you'll notice over here where it says Circle Collider 2D material. We don't have any material right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this new material that I have right into that slot right there. Okay, so now the ball has this high friction material. Alright, at this point I want to focus on the hat and provide an edge collider so that I can make it so that when the ball lands inside of this or makes contact with this edge collider, it's going to stop. So with the hat selected, let's go ahead and add a component, Physics 2D, and I'm going to select the Edge Collider 2D. Alright, let me turn off the sky, and I'm also going to turn off the ground, and let me reselect my hat, and so here's the Edge Collider, as you can see, and I'm going to click this where it says Edit Collider. And I'll just start off by moving this over here, say for example, and moving this point over here, something like that. And then what I can do is, you'll notice that wherever my mouse pointer is located, that I can edit the edge collider. So what I'll do is I'll just simply go around like this, go around like this, and the idea is just to match the shape of the hat. And again, this is just a rough approximation. I'm using the wheel here to scroll in a little bit, so something like this, say for example. And my intention is just to simply go around the hat. You can be as meticulous as you want. We're only going to go to about, say for example right here. And let me see if I can make a straight line across like that. Roughly about where half of the hat is. And then let me go ahead and make a point right here. And then this is going to go all the way down. I want to be able to catch the ball, so I'm moving this over to the right as far as I can, something like this. I don't want these two lines to touch. And let me do the same thing over here, something like that. And again, I want to go down as far as I can, and I don't want these lines to touch right here, so I would say something like that looks pretty good. And we'll make the bottom dip down a little bit. I think I can do a better job over here of going around the edge of the hat. Something like that. And maybe take this guy and move it out just a little bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we're finished editing, and let me save my work before I continue. So I'll just simply say save project. Okay, so let's zoom out. I'm going to turn the sky back on. I'm also going to turn the ground back on. And I'm going to take the bowling ball and on purpose move this up a little bit, run the game, and see what happens. Okay, perfect. So you saw how we caught the ball. And the problem, as you can see here, is that it looks like the ball is in front of the hat. So we're going to have to make some adjustments. But our game works. Let's try it again here. Let me see if I can on purpose bump the ball. Bump it. Bump it. Yeah. See, so that's why I had my edge collider kind of surround the part of the, because the part of the hat, that is, because if my mouse pointer's over here and bam, I bump it, I want it to be able to, I want to be able to see that kind of reaction here. So let's see if I can do that again. Bam, bam. Just kick that thing out like a soccer player. Now I want to go ahead and try to catch it on purpose here, and boom, nice, just kind of falls right in. There we go. Now, obviously, I don't want that ball to be in there. Let's see if I can get that thing to jump out. That's funny. I want the ball to destroy once we've caught it, and also I need it to be in front of the hat. So let's get out of this play mode. Okay, so for this next part, you're not going to be able to do what I'm going to do unless you have a program like Fireworks or Photoshop or some sort of a program, graphical program, where you can manipulate the hat. Because specifically what I want to do is I want to make a front part and a back part. So one of the things that I can do is I can right click on here, reveal in my folder where, or in my Finder, where this file is found, and then I can actually do some editing. So what I did already is I'm creating these two images called Hat Sprite Front and also Hat Sprite Back, and I have to manipulate them so that I can get I can get the front and the back part of the hat. So you may not necessarily be able to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this, and just the general idea of what you would need to do in your software program. I'll give you the front and the back part asset, and I'll put that in the Canvas folder so that you can download that. So first of all, I'm going to fit Canvas because I want to make sure that I have just what I need here in terms of the actual physical location of the hat. And what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to cut from here to here, around here, all the way to here, and then this outer part. I'll get rid of that, and then that will define for me the front. So first of all, let me save my work that I've done so far. And let's see, one of the things I think I can do is I can use a, let's see, I think I could just use this guy over here to cut what I want. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cut from here to here. Actually, you know what? I don't like this tool. Sorry about that. Let me get rid of that. Here we go. And let's see here. I think here it is. The polygon lasso tool. That's what I need. So let me just zoom in a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from here, and I'm trying to look for a straight line, let's say to about right here. And I'm going to take some small steps here as I'm clicking around this edge of the hat. The smaller the steps, the more refined that it's going to look. Although since this is going to be, on a smaller screen, probably won't notice too much of a difference, but I think it's important to kind of pay attention to the details and be patient and just try to make this look as neat and refined as possible. So try to talk at the same time so you guys don't get bored. Let's see here. Is this about at the same level? Looks like a little bit higher, so maybe like right here, say for example. Is that about the same level? That's pretty good. Okay, so then I'll just simply go across. I'm looking for a straight line right there, say for example. Yep, that looks pretty good. And then I'll just go over here to the top. Go all the way over here to the top. And then connect these right there. Okay, good. So I need to get rid of this. So I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard, and then actually, you know what I should have done? I should have actually just say cut. So let me cut this because I think I'm going to paste it. So I'll say cut, and then I'm going to paste this over here. So first of all, let me put canvas, and let's zoom in. And then on a different layer, I'm going to paste. But I'm going to paste in place. Let's see here, paste. Yep, there it is. So if I take this off, you'll see that top part right there. Perfect. In fact, I don't think I even need the background. But before I jump ahead of myself here, yeah, that looks fine right there. And let's see here. Let me save this. That's going to save as hat sprite front. Looks good. And then over here, I don't need this background right here, so let me just delete that. There we go. I just need this part right here. This will be the back part. And so we'll say save. Okay, so I have these two parts of my hat. The front part, where as the ball falls into the hat, this front part of the hat is going to cover the ball as it's going in. Now over here, this back part, the ball will be in front of this part, and it will look like it's falling into the hat in front of this particular image. Okay, so I've got these two. Let me go back over here to Unity, and I need to bring in those two chunks. So let's see here. Let me go over here to a Finder, and let me look for those pictures that I just created, which were in Pictures, Citrus College, and 177. And here's the front and the back part of my hat. So I'll just take those two and drag and drop them into the sprites folder. I'm going to just drag it here. And there they are. Okay, so let's go over here to the hat sprite. Now, I don't want the hat sprite. I want the front part of the hat sprite to be here. So what I'll do is I'll drag and drop this over here where it says hat sprite. So that's going to be the front, as you can see over here. And then what I'll do is with this hat sprite back part, I'll drag this in. So let me drop it in here. And also I have to change the layer. So let's see here. Let's go over here to the sorting layer. We're going to put that to the foreground. So that's not at the correct location. So let's see if I can just drop that down a little bit. Right around there. That looks pretty good. Wow, I was able to kind of eyeball it here. Let me move it out of place and just snap that into place. That looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that the ordering is correct. So let's see here. This says order in layer 0. And then for the hat sprite, which is the front part, that says order in layer 1, which means it's in front of it. That's perfect. So what I want to do is I'll make this guy a child. So I'll drag it and drop it on top of here. This is going to be a child of this. Let's select the bowling ball and see what happens now as I bring this down. And let me zoom in a little bit over here. So now this is where the layering is important here to make sure that everything is layered properly. Okay, so it looks like it's going in front of that back part, but as you can see over here, the front part of the hat needs to be in front of the ball. So let's see here. It looks like the bowling ball is at order layer 2, which means that this front part here, let's see, that's going to have to be at 3. So I change that to 3. Ah, nice. Look at that. So, whoops, I didn't want to move the hat. I want to move the ball. So the ball is going in front of the back part of the hat, but as it continues to fall through, it is behind the front part of the hat, and then it's going to fall in. Boy, that looks nice. Okay, let me save my work. Let's run the game. Actually, I should have moved the ball up a little bit here. Sorry about that. So let's stop the game. Let's take that ball, move it up here, run it, and let's see what happens here. Nice. Looks like it just falls right into the hat. All right, let's get out of this game mode. Oh, that was funny. As I moved the ball. Well, that's because we have to destroy it, but I'll show you how to do that next. Okay, so we're going to have to provide another edge collider for our hat so that when the ball touches the new edge collider that I'm going to create, we'll just destroy the object. So let me go ahead and select the hat sprite. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to make the sky and the ground disappear. And then I'll select the hat sprite. And we already have one edge collider, as you can see over here. I'm going to create another one. So we'll say add component, physics 2D, edge collider once again. And what I want to do is I want to edit this edge collider. So if I click over here where it says edit, you see what the lines look like. So we're going to take this dot and we're going to move it over here. Take this guy over here and move it over here. And so the idea is when the ball lands inside and touches this guy, that's when we're going to destroy it. So maybe I'll put it just a little bit higher. Maybe something like that. You're just eyeballing it so that when the ball makes contact with this line right here, it's going to destroy it. Okay, so now that the line is in place, another thing that we're going to want to do is to activate isTrigger, because that's exactly what this collider is going to act as, a trigger such that when the ball triggers this, what are we going to do with the ball? Well, in this case, we're going to destroy it. So make sure that you place a check mark over here for isTrigger. At this point, let's create a script that will affect the triggering of the ball touching this line here. So let's go ahead and actually make sure that hat sprite is selected. Very good. And I'm going to select add component and new script. We're going to call this guy destroy on contact. Enter. Okay, well, first of all, let me clean up my scripts here. So let me go to Assets, and I'm going to drag these guys into the scripts folder. Oops. There we go. And then if I click inside the scripts folder, okay, good. So here are my scripts. I'm going to double click on the destroy on contact script, and I won't need the sample code. What I am going to require, make sure that your spelling and capitalization is correct, is the usage of the on trigger enter 2D. Make sure that you enter 2D. And let's type in for the argument collider 2D and then other. Well, in this case, the other is going to be the ball that makes contact with the edge collider. When that happens, we just want to destroy that object, which is other.gameObject. Okay, so let's save our work. File, save. And let me go back over here to Unity, and I'm going to turn on the sky, and I'll turn on the ground. And let's see what happens here. So let's go into game mode here. And as you can see here, well, maybe you can't see it. It has destroyed the object, but maybe I can do a little trick here. So let's see here. In terms of the hat, let's see, can I turn off the front part? Yeah, let's just turn this off so visually we won't be able to see it, but that's okay because we'll be able to see the effect on the ball. So as you can see here, well, maybe I shouldn't say that so quickly because this doesn't exist. So we do want it to exist. Let's see here. I think what I need to do, let's see if I turn off the sprite render. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I turned this off so we can at least see what's happening. That's what I wanted to do, the sprite render. Okay, perfect. Did you see how the ball entered in, and then when it touches that edge collider, it destroys? So let's try it again. Bam, destroyed. And let's see if I can play around with it a little bit. Maybe like catch it on the edge, like on the edge. And wow, that was nice. Okay. So the code destroys, let me turn this back on before I forget. The code is going to destroy the object that touches that edge collider. Well, we want to do that again for the ball that happens to, maybe like I move this hat really quickly, it hits the ball and flies out this way, or it falls through because I completely miss it. We want to destroy the ball whenever it goes past this area over here, say for example. Alright, so the way that we're going to deal with this is we'll create an empty new game object. I'm going to rename this guy as Destroyer. And let's see here. Okay, so I have this. I'm going to add a component, Physics 2D, Edge Collider, once again. And let's see here. Let me move the edge. Actually, let me take the sky and make that disappear, and the ground and make that disappear, just so that I can see the edge collider here. So let me select Destroyer, and there's the edge collider. So we'll say, let's just move this out here so I can see it, like that. Then I'll bring the sky back and the ground back. And then let me go back to the Destroyer, Edge Collider. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that if there's any collision over here, then we're going to destroy the object. So it could be that there may be contact just outside of this camera view. And so I'm going to go up a little bit just to make sure. Let's say, for example, if I move the hat back and forth and I happen to strike the ball and the ball goes up like this, right? That's why I'm making these edge colliders just a little bit higher, just to make sure that if it does make contact with this, then we want to destroy the object. Right? Something like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, now I want the same code that I typed in before, this code over here in terms of destroying the object. I want that same thing to be applied to Destroyer, which is right now this edge collider. So what I'll do is with Destroyer selected, I'll add a component. Now let's see here, I don't want to create a new script, I just want to use an existing script. So I'll click on this guy, and one of the existing scripts, as you can see here, is Destroy on Contact. That's the one that we just created. So we'll say scripts and Destroy on Contact. That way, if the ball, or yeah, that's right, if the bowling ball makes contact over here or anywhere along this edge collider, it's going to destroy, because that's what the Destroyer does. Okay, so I'm going to keep this guy out here a little bit, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the ball fall through and then make contact over here, and you should see that the ball should destroy. So let's do this, and I'll move my mouse over here, and bam. Okay, actually, it makes contact with it, but it doesn't destroy that. And I know what I did wrong. Select Destroyer, and let's see here, I forgot to select is trigger. So for this Edge Collider 2D, I got to make sure to say that that's going to be triggering, because when that triggers, then I want to go to this code and activate this when this 2D trigger occurs. So let me save my work. And let's run the game again. I'm going to move my mouse pointer over here, and there we go. So let's see. Let me try to now bump it out of the way and see what happens. So let's see if I can bump this out of the way. Oh, once again, the ball went this way. As soon as it hit this edge collider, then it automatically destroyed. Good. So let me stop this.